Appetite versus hunger. Welcome to Holistic Nutrition Healing. This is a channel where we talk about everything and anything that has to do with our nutrition. That is mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual. These four energies walking in the same direction for our well-being. Today, the subject at hand is appetite and hunger. What are they? Let's start with saying that in this video we'll talk about possible causes of the lack of appetite, the lack of hunger, and potential solutions that we are going to implement in our everyday today lives to come back to that pleasurable feeling that is enjoying food, to look at food like a pleasure, and even the preparation of food as a pleasure rather than an obligation or a thing to do for our bodies, or because we're in charge of the household. Maybe it's not an obligation, it is a pleasure. So what is appetite? I'm sure we all have heard the phrase of "I don't want to lose my appetite." Maybe even use it ourselves, right? Or with children it's very common, right? And don't eat sweets in between meals because you're gonna lose your appetite, kind of deal. Appetite is a feeling, the feeling of wanting to eat the pleasurable things, to enjoy the textures and the flavors and the crunchiness of something, or the flavor of something. When you say, I feel like having a donut, or I feel like having popcorn, or I feel like having seafood, even if you're not hungry right now and your brain is thinking of something that is craving, that your physiology itself is craving. Now, there are many reasons for why your body might be craving different things like sweets or salty things, or a lot of vegetables. Oftentimes, if we just pay attention to our everyday habits for eating, we can pretty much assess what's missing in our nutrition, our physical nutrition. And if you just want to be absolutely sure that everything is running smooth and easy inside of you, there's always the blood tests that help you assess what minerals or vitamins deficiencies are in your body. Because oftentimes that can be the cause of you craving some kind of meat or some salty things or so very sweet things. But coming back to appetite, it is that fact of saying, I feel like having this array of foods, right? Just fill in the blank, whatever you feel like having. And at the same time, hunger is the actual action of your stomach feeling the hunger pains, the gurgling of the stomach, like I'm hungry, I haven't eaten in like 8 hours or so, right? So when somebody's hungry, you can put in front of them whatever thing and they will eat it because they are so hungry. We are so hungry, we're famished, you're just gonna eat it. In Mexico, we have a saying that says that when you're hungry, even a cold tortilla tastes like a buffet, you know, the super great food. The point of all of this is that that eating is, yes, a necessity, and also in our evolved life and as humans, we have made it into a pleasure. If we go back to the caveman times where people were running around hunting their food, they just ate as a necessity, and there were times that there wasn't any food, so they might have gone 4 days without eating food more other than little berries or things like that. So now we that evolved from them is how come we can uh, have practices like fasting and do very well with them. It's not only practice that some people take, it's, I think, also very helpful for your system to reset in a modern world where we have food basically available 24 hours, 7 hours of the day. It's always available. And when we create the hunger and appetite for food, it's just gonna be so much beneficial for our bodies. Now, keep in mind, I'm not saying that you should starve yourself or basically do fasting in order to have the hunger and appetite at bay, though that might just be the cause, that might just be the solution of your issue. Truth is that every person is different. Our microbiome, it's made of over 80 trillion bacteria, and it's just gonna be that for you, what works for you personally might not work for another person, even your same age, even your same gender. It might be that whatever works for you now doesn't work anymore, and you are doing the same practices you used to do before. We go in cycles as well. All of these things that are variant, we need to consider when we are experiencing a lack of appetite. The appetite, again, is the desire, the pleasure seeking, that flavors, textures, like, yeah, I feel like having that. And you have choices, right? You can choose to eat I don't know, popcorn versus salty chips, because you have the appetite for both. Because you're not famished or super hungry, you're not gonna ravish either the chips or the popcorn. You see, so it's a matter of satisfying your taste buds without exceeding the limit for you. So the appetite can be lost by so many factors, but for now we'll just mention the main ones that are very common nowadays of this society, especially after the Industrial Revolution, when everything started going so fast and we started introducing pre-packaged food and frozen foods and foods made in factory as opposed to the homemade meal or the raw food that comes just from the nature, the earth, or barely processed foods. It started since then. So that was in the 1950s, 1940s, and now within 2025 we have an explosion of different food that has been processed, and yes, for sometimes convenience, it is just so useful to go and use a prepared meal. I am not demonizing any of those meals, because truth to be told, when you are talking about food as a necessity rather than a pleasure, your body needs some kind of sustenance. We need food and we need water. And coming back to the loss of appetite and coming back to the fast explosion of things, when we have a lot of things to do in our agenda and we have commitments to attend, especially if you are the household keeper, and maybe it's up to you to put the food on the table, prepare the meals, or set logistics for lunch or suppers or whatnot. It could be very challenging to look after your own self and say, well, what do I feel like eating? Because now all of your space that is in your brain selected for creation, for let's relax, let's smell the flowers and see what I feel like eating, it's gone. There's no space for it, there's no time. We have to fulfill our commitments and put dinner on the table by 6 o'clock or so in the afternoon, and then keep up with your own demands and the demands that we ourselves put in our body. So your brain kind of gets overwhelmed and says, oh, okay, wait a minute. Eating is not a pleasure anymore. Eating has become a necessity. We have to keep going, doing all of these activities over here. And if I am to keep up with all of these demands that we are putting in ourselves, the brain is saying this, right? So then we are gonna have to be economy here and suppress some of these feelings that have no space right now. We're just basically in survival, and manage the task, manage the time, and the pleasure, it's one of the first things to go out. How many times have we run across people that we might not say it, but we might think about, oh, that person is such a bitter person, or like they don't smile much, or like, you know, that the pleasure, it's not present. However, the pleasure occurs like for them. There's many ways to show pleasure in everyday to-day life. Like, again, everybody's different and everybody has their own ways to say it, to show pleasure, and you can tell when it's not present. So one of those pleasures is appetite. Physiologically in our body, that can manifest as adrenal fatigue. The adrenal glands that are located more or less here around the ribs, they're very tiny little things like this big, maybe even less. They they regulate a lot of the metabolism, and it's the adrenaline and the cortisol factory. It connects with the thyroid, which also regulates metabolism. So when we are talking about appetite, you might be lacking some of the nutrients that your either adrenal glands need or your thyroid needs, which connects all of it. In this part here, is super important to distinguish what is it that we're dealing with. Is it the lack of appetite? Is it the lack of hunger? Or it could be the other way around. It could be you just get too hungry for no apparent reason, or you just feel like eating a lot, what we call emotional eating. I eat to feel better, or I eat because I feel depressed, or I'm sad, or you know, the sweet rush, the sugar rush. And then that could all lead to eating disorders as well. So it's super important that you identify what is the cause, what is that is affecting you, and then we can point at the cause. Remember, you are never alone, and there are always people readily available to help you out. So continuing with the lack of hunger, that's a little bit more easy to identify where the problem comes from. Sometimes if we have a higher metabolism and you haven't been moving a whole ton, you haven't exercised for whatever the reason, or you haven't walked as much for whatever the reason, perhaps your hunger is gonna decrease. Your body doesn't need all of that food, right? It's not like you are exercising enormously. You are not creating muscle. The muscle feeds with the fats that we put it. Well, not necessarily fat. Everything that we eat gets converted into fat, and then the fat gets converted into muscle. So, and I want to make a parenthesis here. It's not like I'm gonna eat a stick of butter and that's gonna be converted into muscle. No, it's not like that. It's like everything that we eat becomes, first of all, sugars, and then from there whatever the body uses as building muscle is converted into muscle, and then the rest gets converted into fat if it is not used. Stop. So muscles are largely made of fat. That's another conversation. Let's stick with hunger and appetite here. Another cause of lack of hunger could be a thyroid issue. Again, we say that regulates the metabolism. Another condition could be emotional stress. It's the same as appetite. When we lose our appetite, it could just be emotional stress. It's the survival mode that we were talking about. Your brain goes into survival mode, and there's no time for pleasure. Like, no, eating, hungry, appetite, no. And the potential solutions that we could put in here for according to what you are dealing with, it's again according to your personality, it's according to your activities, your age, what your beliefs are. Even the solution is gonna be up to you. And these are a few pointers that I have found very helpful when I am dealing with lack of appetite or lack of hunger, because that's with me that the case is I either experience lack of appetite or lack of hunger, and it's not fun. It's not fun. However, we can come back to our centers and again experience the pleasure and the joy. So first of all, the very practical things to do is to take big deep breaths. And I can understand that sometimes we just don't have the time, or it seems like we are running all day long and there's no time to even breathe. Like, how do you want me to stop in the middle of the day and take a few deep big breaths? That's just not possible at the moment. Again, you are not alone. You are not so alone. When I first started meditating and breathing consciously, I was not the kind of person to sit down and take a minute for myself. It was all day long since I woke up, running and running, and it seemed like I never stopped until I crashed at night, fully exhausted. And the paradigm is that there is not enough time. So for starters, you might want to look internally and see, how can I create the time for me, for myself? Because we know that there isn't any more time. The day just has 24 hours period. However, we can always create that sacred space for us. And there is, and I'm telling you, there is. Coming from someone who was so into her work and so into her commitments, and there's no time for even going to the bathroom kind of deal, I'm telling you, you can carve the time for yourself. Second of all is breathing consciously. And in that space, really feel what is it that you need. Sometimes the thing to do or not to do is actually not eating. You might just need that break. Your brain might need to process some things, and then, you know, instead of eating at 6 o'clock when it's that you normally eat, you might be feeling hungry at, I don't know, 7:30 or 8, because now you have had the time to process and going through things, and now you're actually feeling hungry and with an appetite. So that's probably the only thing that, and the most powerful thing that is gonna help you is breathe, number one, and number two, take the space and the time for yourself to plan your meals, to see what is it that you're craving, to just feel your body. Now, it might seem easier said than done, and believe me, I was there. And that doesn't mean it cannot be done. There's always people around you to help you if you just want to reach out. I am here to help you if you just want to reach out. And even just as simple as having a journaling practice, just as simple as having a pen and a piece of paper, just makes you feel like someone is already listening to you. I hope that this video left you with another understanding of what appetite and hunger is, and why it's important to actually feel them both. And really hope that you can take matter in your own hands and become the seeker of pleasure that we are in this earth for. Because the best we feel inside, the best we can be for other people around us. I'm sending you many blessings, and thank you for watching all to the end. Please make sure to subscribe and be attentive to upcoming events.